Do you have a plan for getting emergency help when you're out on an adventure and have no cell service? Let's say you're like me and doing some overlanding or adventure riding miles from civilization and you or someone in your party break a leg, get bit by a rattlesnake, or go into atrial fibrillation or AFib. Now, your first aid skills notwithstanding, if something like that happens, you're already kind of fucked. But how irrevocably fucked you are will depend on, in part, your communication plan. I try to at least give myself a fighting chance by carrying a Garmin InReach device with an active InReach subscription so I can get emergency service just about anywhere I am via their satellite network. Now, carrying one of these things is just something I did because it seemed to make sense. Then I recently stumbled upon this video by Dixie on her Homemade Wanderlust channel. And in addition to learning something new myself, it inspired me to make my own video to hopefully educate and inform you all, my viewers. Now in this video, I'm going to 1. Share with you my experience and rationale for carrying one of these things. 2. Share what I've learned we can expect if we ever have to use the SOS button. And 3. Cover a list of things I plan to start, stop, and continue doing, knowing what I know now thanks to some recent independent research, including videos like Dixie's inspiring and informative video. And 4. Provide a list of references I found and used so that you can further educate yourself if you so choose. For the past 5+ years, I've been traveling with this Garmin InReach Explorer. Now, before you jump over to Google to look this thing up, it seems Garmin discontinued this particular model last year. But here are their current InReach capable devices if you're interested. They're by no means cheap, but let me explain why I think they're totally worth it. For one, it's a highly portable navigation unit with a really good battery life. I bring this along with me anytime I'm foot mobile, for example. It has maps, a compass, route tracking, waypoints, and so forth. So you'd probably have to try pretty damn hard to get lost with this thing on you. Another big reason I carry one of these is to beacon my location for others. Now, to take advantage of this beaconing feature as well as the SOS service, you do need an active InReach subscription. They come in a few flavors, as you see here, ranging from safety to expedition. I use their recreation plan, which is about $35 a month. Now, before you bail or balk at the prices or their subscription-based business model, you should know that you can activate or suspend your subscription a month at a time anytime you want. So, for example, you see how in my screenshot here it says pending suspension 11/15? That's because I used the service in October, but I don't need it now. So I paid the $34.95 for the month I used it, and until I activate the subscription again, I'm not going to be charged anything. I really like this model because if I decide tomorrow I'm going to go on a cross-country trip, I can activate the subscription tonight and it'll be active immediately until I suspend it again. This convenience does come at a small cost though. A $34.95 annual program fee is charged each year unless you cancel out of the program completely. Now that's under $3 a month, and to be honest, my medium cup of black coffee from Dunkin' each morning costs more than that. So as far as value goes, it's worth it to me. One more thing on their plans. I really appreciate how easy their site makes it to activate, suspend, or completely cancel their services. Again, you can see here, cancel is clearly an option. Anyone who's tried canceling a gym membership or a cable should be able to appreciate this no-nonsense feature. I sure do. Anyway, back to beaconing. I typically have this thing on me all the time while on the move. And the way the beaconing works is it plots your location and track on a map unique to your account. You can share a link to this map to anyone you want and even post it on social media if you feel like playing Dodge the Stalker. Here's an example of my last 2 trips. One out west on the motorcycle and another to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the Subaru. Both of which had me spending considerable time with 0 cell service. Since I'm often out solo, this beaconing is especially handy for me to keep my wife informed of my whereabouts. No more worrying about checking in every so often to let her know where I am. She can pull up a map, see where I've been, see where I'm at, even see how long I've spent in any one point. I often tell her, if you see me stop moving for a while and can't get in touch with me, send out a search crew because I'm probably dead and you're going to need the body to collect on life insurance. From the map, she can even message me regardless of whether I'm in range of cell service. Which brings me to another thing I like about carrying this thing, the ability to send and receive simple text messages. Most of the time I can just use my phone and cell service for this, but more often than not, my campsite of choice is far enough off the beaten path that this isn't an option. So I simply pair the Garmin with my phone using their app and message via satellite like I would any other message service. You don't have to use the app, you can message directly from the device, but since this thing's message UI is reminiscent of a 2000 Nokia, I prefer to just use the app. When it comes to text messages, things get interesting or weird depending on your point of view. Let's look again at the recreation service that I usually use. I get 40 text messages a month and unlimited check-in messages. Well, what's a check-in message? If you set up your Garmin account prior to September 27th, 2022, you have preset messages, like I do. If you set up your account on or after September 27th, 2022, you have check-in messages. For all intents and purposes, these two things are the same. There are 3 predetermined messages that you can send that don't count against your subscription's message allotment. For example, here's mine, which, now that I look at them, I should probably change since the second and third are kind of redundant. Anyway, that's preset and check-in messages. Quick messages are simply canned messages you set up in advance to save yourself from having to type things out, which again is especially handy if you're not using the app on your phone. These do count against your message allotment. Now keep in mind, unless you've opted for their expedition service with unlimited text messages, any reply you get to a message, even a preset or check-in one, will count towards your allotment. So, if your spouse or kids are the type that go bananas on text, you may want to brief them beforehand so you don't chew through your allotment in a single day. The final reason I carry this on me as a communication supplement is the SOS button. So long as you have an active InReach subscription, you can use this to call for help if no other means are available. Which brings me to the next part of this video, what to expect if you press the SOS button. When you trigger an SOS, a signal is sent off to the Garmin International Emergency Response Coordination Center, or IERCC, a 24/7 staffed professional emergency response coordination center. At the same time, tracking is automatically enabled from your device. Once connected, the IERCC will attempt to establish two-way communications with you to confirm the SOS and/or solicit additional information as needed. They'll also begin reaching out to emergency services and any other resources to provide assistance based on what they've been able to ascertain about your emergency. Throughout all this, they're also reaching out to your emergency contact to inform them of the situation and gather even more information. The IERCC will stay in contact with you, the user, the responding organization, and emergency contact until assistance is no longer needed. Now, let's pause for a second and take inventory of all that. That whole process isn't from personal experience. All this is available publicly on Garmin's site. In Dixie's video, however, she did have an emergency and ended up using that SOS button. In her video, which is linked to in the description, her account of the events as they unfolded matches what Garmin promises the IERCC will provide. Having gone through that experience, she documented things she learned and things she plans on doing differently. Which brings me to what I personally plan to start, stop, and continue doing now that I know a little more about how Garmin's InReach service works. Things I'm going to start doing immediately. Number 1, educate my emergency contacts on Garmin's SOS response procedure so they know what to expect. You see, according to Dixie's video, she listed her mom as her emergency contact, almost more out of a formality of filling in required info, and then left it at that. When she got a call from the IERCC, her poor mom was completely taken off guard. Fortunately, they were apparently very professional, compassionate, and helpful, and took care of both her and her daughter throughout Dixie's ordeal. Number 2, tell my emergency contacts that if they get a call from Garmin International, pick it up. That's going to be the IERCC reaching out to your emergency contact. Number 3, update the emergency notes in my Garmin account. I had left this optional field blank up until now. I figure this is good for things like blood type, height, weight, and so on. Just anything that the emergency response team might need. Number 4, carry a means to signal a helicopter. Jury's still out on exactly how I'm going to do that. I might grab one of these smoke flares or something, but I figure a flare gun in areas highly susceptible to forest fires probably isn't a good idea. Let me know if you got any good ideas for helicopter signaling in the comments. Number 5, purchase search and rescue insurance through Garmin, which provides up to $100,000 in coverage. See, Dixie was billed $60,000 for her helicopter rescue, and at $40 per year, this seems like a reasonable price to pay just in case. Number 6, and the last thing I need to start doing is thinking of a plan for gear retrieval should I need to be hauled off somewhere in an emergency. I mean, if I'm medevaced, that means all my shit will be left where I was. Consider this, Dixie mentioned in her video that the helicopter pilot asked her if she had any weapons, fuel canisters, bear spray, things you normally can't fly with. That apparently holds true for medevac helicopters as well. And I don't know about you, but I usually travel with all of those things and don't feel particularly comfortable leaving any of those things, let alone a fully packed motorcycle or rig, abandoned in the wild for anyone to find. So I need to start thinking about what to do about that. At the moment, other than identifying people I know near where I'll be, I'm really not sure how to manage that. Any suggestions? Things I plan to stop doing, knowing what I know now about how Garmin's InReach service works. To be honest, there's not much that I can think of that I need to stop doing. There is one thing though that comes to mind looking through footage of my motorcycle trip out west. I need to stop mounting this on my bike and start always mounting it to me. If I get nailed on the bike, ride off a shelf road, or hit an elk, there's a good chance that my bike and I are gonna get separated. And if this thing is still on the bike after I've tumbled 50 yards and broke my leg, having brought this thing and subscribed to their service isn't gonna do me a hell of a lot of good now, is it? I suppose this goes for motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles, or anything else that you are likely to get ejected from. So yeah, I'm gonna stop mounting it to the bike and probably start mounting it to me. Lastly, things that I plan to continue doing that I've learned are good to do. Number 1, I'm going to keep my InReach subscription so that I can continue activating it when I need it and suspend it when I don't. Seems a good subscription model for maximizing value. Number 2, I'm going to continue updating my preset/check-in messages before I go out. These are those 3 canned messages you can send, and I like to update them before each trip depending on the nature of the trip. Might as well try to communicate meaningful stuff free and save the finite message allotment for more conversational stuff. Number 3, definitely going to continue testing my device before I leave. Testing confirms satellite reception, message send and receive, subscription status, and so forth. It also confirms you still know how to use the damn thing. As with many things, simply owning something doesn't mean you're prepared to use it, or that it'll function as expected when you need it. So, test, maintain, and train. A solid philosophy that applies here as well. Number 4, I'm going to continue sharing how to access my map, location, and how to message me with those that should be in the know. It's not going to do me much good if this thing is just broadcasting my location and messages into the ether. Being the dork that I am, I've literally made PowerPoint and Word instructions for people on how to use Garmin's service and access my shit. And I don't care if that makes me a dork, I'm going to continue doing it anyway. Lastly, I'm definitely going to continue making darn sure having a means to charge this thing is always on my trip checklist. I don't know about the newer models, but this model still uses micro USB. I hate micro USB. I typically refuse to buy anything that uses micro USB, which means most of my travel charging gear is USB-C. And there's a good chance that if I don't continue to keep a micro USB cable on my checklist, I'm going to end up leaving without one. All right, if you've made it with me this far, thank you. And the last thing I want to share with you are some additional resources that I found to help you educate yourself. First, the inspiration for this video. Dixie's video and her Homemade Wanderlust channel. She's a thru hiker and covers all sorts of cool stuff related to that avocation. You'll find a link to her Garmin video in the description, and I do recommend checking it out along with her other content. Next, and it probably goes without saying because you're watching me, but YouTube in general is a great resource. A search for Garmin InReach or Garmin SOS will produce a plethora of results for you to wade through. But in case you find conflicting or missing information, head to this last resource, Garmin's website. Because, let's face it, most YouTubers have good intentions when it comes to conveying information that is accurate, but we don't always all get it right all the time, especially when things change over the lifetime of a video. Which is why whenever possible, I like to go straight to the source to help round out my understanding of something. In the case of Garmin's site, you'll find information on their devices, information on their plans, including FAQs, and even full downloadable presentations like this one on everything you need to know about SOS. Alright, if you liked this video and found it helpful, please hit that like button and help me out with the old algorithm. If you're interested in seeing more about random shit I find interesting, then consider subscribing. Either way, thank you so much for joining me. Until the next time, this is Tom the Dilettante saying keep on tinkering and keep on learning. Have a good one.